Hello everybody, and welcome once again to Unfolded, the HARVEY Maps Podcast. We are certainly getting into the swing of things now. We're on to episode 2 today, and we're going to be talking about the art of cartography. This will involve how maps are made, how we do it at HARVEY Maps, and hopefully a discussion on some broader topics to do with maps and art. Once again, I'm going to be joined by my colleague Chris. Hello again, Chris.
Afternoon.
Welcome back. Afternoon. Good to have you back, Chris.
Nice to be back.
This will be a lot easier now. Episode 2, I reckon. We're well up to speed in what to do and how the dynamic world of podcasts works.
Yes.
So episode 1, we had a great chat. Ultimately about why we bother making maps.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure we solved that for everyone listening. Hopefully we
so.
did.
So.
Hopefully everyone took away a few things. So the second episode, I thought it'd be really good to talk about the art of cartography in a broad sense, but also, I guess, kind of what it means to HARVEY Maps. What is it that HARVEY Maps does? What is our own brand of art, if you like, and how we do it?
Okay.
I thought it'd be just start. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you consider yourself to be an artist?
I've never actually thought about that before, but I suppose in some respects I'm producing something which is visually attractive. So by that rationale, then
that's the aim, anyway. That's the aim.
I suppose.
Yeah. I think I come from a family of artists, all various forms, art teachers, and lots of art teachers. There's some actual artists in there, sculptors. Mm-hmm. The buck pretty much stopped with me at one point when I was younger, but clearly I've gone into maps and from my kind of mid-20s. So definitely, if you were to ask my family members, they would say, "Oh God, yeah, maps are a form of art."
Yeah,
but there's a lot more that goes into that, and we'll obviously come on to that. But many people we speak to enjoy talking to us about map making because it elicits a response in them to do with the mountains or the rivers or the paths.
Yeah, it provokes something in their imagination that makes them want to engage more.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so just we'll have a look there. Let's talk about how we do it here. How do we talk us through a map being made at HARVEY Maps? You're the guy that oversees everything here, pretty much from a production point of view. So
well, if I take it from we've got the data from the photogrammetrists, and they've recorded everything, which I think we touched upon in the previous episode.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to talk to the photogrammetrists in depth later.
Try saying that word after a beer or two. It's always a hard one.
Plotters, we call them plotters.
The plotters.
But anyway, if I talk about the cartography side of it, over a long period, we've established what the HARVEY Maps map specification is, and we want to communicate things easily and quickly. We want to be able to make the user imagine without too much difficulty what the ground is like.
Yeah, that's the key part of a cartographer, I guess, is that how do you take, I've scribbled down, we're trying to represent a 3D world in two dimensions, and that there's a challenge in itself there. Mm-hmm. How do you present that information?
Yeah, I mean, there's obvious things people will expect to see water represented by a blue colour. So it's kind of second nature, so you don't have to have a complicated key demonstrating all of these things. It's blue, it's water. I don't need to think any more about that. And you can use the hierarchy of colours to make some features stand out and some features recede.
How long does it take to make a map?
Typically, from start to end is 6 to 9 months, something like that.
Yeah.
From the first draft of the area that we're going to cover right to getting the printed map at the end. Something like 6 to 9 months.
I wonder how many people are aware of that who are listening, that it takes so so much time and effort. How long's the cartographic aspect of it?
The cartographic phase is maybe 1 to 2 months, something like that.
Yeah. So the bulk of the work is
the gathering of the raw data. It's the photogrammetry.
Yeah.
Photogrammetry.
That word's going to be the end of us, Chris, on this one. There's a lot we're establishing, and there's a lot goes into this process. So for a company like us, 6 to 9 months, we're looking at not many maps being made from scratch each year, given the team size and so on. Why do we do it this way? Why do we insist on capturing it like the way we do it? I guess what are the benefits to that?
It means that we get what we want for our particular intended user out of the map. It's our maps are for hiking, for walking, for cycling, for outdoor activities. So we focus on those things. Our photogrammetrists are very experienced and highly trained, and we feel that we can show the land better by this method, which takes a long time and takes a lot of focus and intense work. Yeah. We think it gets a better result, so that's why we do it.
Yeah, and I
suppose it's as simple as that.
Pretty straightforward.
It's worthwhile putting that effort in to get the better result.
Do you think we consider ourselves as traditional map makers, or do we embrace? Are we making things in a modern manner?
I think there is a traditional aspect, because there's that, even though we do things digitally with computers, primarily everything we do, but there is that hand drawn, in inverted commas, aspect. It's one person crafting the contours. It's one person identifying the features.
I suppose in an age of excitement around AI and click of a button stuff, we still maintain, as you said a minute ago, that the best outcome for us is the fact that we can interpret the land in the way that we do to get the best result. Would you say, you've been in a few moons, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
are you like, put your dab hand at every stage of the process, do you think?
No.
Got your photogrammetry, cartography, survey and printing, and
I think I've tried all of those things. I have to say, I tried to be a photogrammetrist and failed.
Oh right, how did that? What was that for?
That was because my 3D vision is not good enough.
I don't know where to go with that. So I throw something at you, and will you catch it, or Okay, so so you've got to. You have to be able to see in a certain
you've got to have very good 3D vision to be able to see the aerial images in 3 dimensions, and therefore interpret the landscape.
Got you. Well, at least you had a go. It's more than I've ever done. It always looks a bit scary as you sit and look through your 3D goggles type thing.
Yes. But everything else, brilliant.
Yeah. Thankfully, you've got it sorted. Let's have a look at it more then in relation to the history of HARVEY Maps, and so we've got our process now. We know how we make maps today. You mentioned computers. Mm-hmm. All I can say is, thank heavens we have computers. HARVey Maps was founded in 1977. Yeah. So I'm almost certain there wasn't a computer that we made our first map on.
No. Well, it was done by hand with we use photogrammetry, but everything was manually done with pen and ink, and we also use a process called scribing, which would be scratching the surface off.
Oh yeah, that's sort of like a laminated
laminated film, and you'd scratch the top surface off to reveal the underlay, the clear underlay, and so you'll get a consistent line thickness for roads or for contours or something like that.
Yeah.
And everything was built up separately according to what colour they were and whether the features were lines or points or areas or text.
Okay. And this was all eventually you're making. What was the end goal of these stages? Is this to make the kind of the printing aspect of the you'll describe it better than me, Chris.
It's to make the printing plates.
The plates, that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. And they would stack one on top, 3, 4, or however many, and then they could go through.
Exactly. So you'd make up all of the black features, for instance. You'd stack them up and you make your black plate, and similarly all your blue features would be stacked up, exposed on a big format camera.
Right. Okay.
So you'd have a plate.
Yeah.
It was big and time consuming, and even making a proof to check you got everything right took half a day.
Oh God, I'm glad that wasn't around when I joined. So
and as you say, once you've and the map that you made was that single map.
Mm-hmm.
The data that you got was only used for that single map. Nowadays, you can make a map of an area and you can use it for all sorts of different products.
Sorts of different purposes. Yeah, okay. Yes, because there was no computer to hold the data, it went straight from plate to printed, finished item. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's missed out a whole data store that we take for granted now. That
it's easy to forget that it was so different. There was one specific product was made from one specific map.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to make a different map of the same area, you just have to
repeat the process again. Yeah, I see. Well, I've got my prop with me this time, which is the hold it there. It's the Munro's, the complete collection of HARVEY maps. But if you've not seen it, in here is I know you've seen it, but for people listening, they may not have done. There's a fantastic timeline of all of our kind of key points in history, and one of them I was looking says in 1989 we attached digital encoders to the analog plotters.
Yes. And
in 1993 the introduction of computers for the first time, and we had our very first Apple Macintosh Plus.
That was 1993.
1993. Oh, okay. So it strikes you as quite a bit later than you would have thought. It was only 1982, according to that we introduced our printing press.
Right.
So because we used to print all the stuff in house as well. Yeah. Thankfully, we don't do that now. It would be incredibly noisy and hard. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, so you're going back just 1993. That is just over 30 years. Just over 30 years ago, we got a computer.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Say it like that, you know. I think I had a mobile phone 5 years ago, give or take. So it's to think that we were still making maps.
Yeah.
In the method that you described, scribing them, and there were certain processes had been digitized, for want of a better word, but that process was still very, very manual and with no storage. But I can only imagine we should definitely speak to Pete, our colleague Pete.
Yes,
he's been with us how long? I mean, he's been
longer than me. Pete's been here
probably since 1990 or something. He saw the introduction of the computer.
He's been here 30 years at least, I think.
Yeah, he still refers to it as the kind of black magic box that arrived, changed everything. Apart from 1993, when we introduced the computer, since then, when did you join? 2007? Did you say? What has changed in that period of time?
Since I joined?
Yeah, if anything. I mean, obviously certain things have, but
there's been moving on from those analog plotters with digital encoders attached.
Yeah,
we've moved on to fully digital plotters, fully digital photogrammetry. which is a big change.
Yeah.
We've got away from physical photographs to digital photographs. That has really revolutionized the speed at which we can gather the base data.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of things that have changed since I joined in 2010. I mean, nothing. The actual process of making maps has stayed pretty consistent, and I think that says to me two things, I guess. One is we come back to what are we trying to achieve, and what is the best way to do that. And although we've looked and researched and tried all sorts of different approaches to contour derivation or whatever it might be, we still have always come back to the fact that the best method is the one that we're currently using.
Yeah.
That it might take time, but we're not in a rush per se. And I think when you rush something, actually maybe you miss out on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
But there is, the future of it. Who knows? I mean, AI could be a really interesting point and change a lot of processes, but we just have to see, I suppose, and see what it is we're still trying to achieve in that space. But so I suppose I'm really interested in the art of it.
Yes, bring it back to the art.
Bring it back to the art of map making. So we've kind of spoken about the art and but possibly the science as well. We haven't mentioned the science word, but where do you sit, like, on the scale? We have a video of Sue Harvey, a founder. She says in the video, she talks openly about how mapping is a blend of art and science.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, it absolutely is. It's
what's the ratio?
In me personally.
Yeah. What do you think? Everyone's different.
Everyone's different. I maybe more towards the science part of it.
Okay.
I like the precision and the accuracy.
Yeah.
I think that's fundamental.
Yeah. I've always gone towards art.
I knew it.
I blame my family for that. But I love, a bit like yourself. I love that it's art, but there are lots of rules governing the art, and those that know me here know I'm quite keen on precision and alignment and all this kind of stuff. But so you definitely can't have one without the other.
Yeah, I think with having something that you have to be precise and accurate with, it kind of encourages you to be more creative in what the solution is
that's a
to
good way of putting
solving that problem.
There's lots of creativity in what we do, even though we are bound by the rules that we work within. And I think that's a really good point, trying to find the creative angles and creative solutions. So I suppose I said you can't have one without the other. Can you have a map as art or a map as science? Can you do one without the other? Is it possible?
Is it?
Or does the child drawing a treasure map that you spoke of in episode 1, is that art, or is there a science in that?
No, that's purely art. That's just messing about.
Just messing about. Well, yeah, you're right. Although there's a science in there somewhere. You're trying to achieve something.
Yeah, I suppose, yes, you are following some rules to communicate.
Yeah, early learning rules of place and how you associate and scale. Actually, it's kind of, we're trying to represent. Anyway, we could go on for hours. We like to think we make quite nice looking maps. I think we do.
Yeah, I think we do.
However, I could open up 4 or 5 maps of one map series that we do, and I would be attracted to one more than the other. Aesthetically, one would appeal to me more than the other.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What do you think is in that? what makes something eye-catching in cartographic terms?
Well, something can be eye-catching in a bad way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
There are plenty of examples of awful maps around.
Not at Harvey Maps.
Not at Harvey Maps,
no, obviously. Yeah.
But eye-catching, aesthetically pleasing. I think it's maybe something to do with balance.
Yeah. Composition. Is where I come back to my art, my schooling in art. A-level art studies, always about where to put things on your canvas. And so a map, from our point of view, doesn't just contain a 2D representation of a 3D land. It has to contain the coding element, the key, and the credits, and the whatever all the other bits that go around the edge.
There's more to a map than just the map.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would just be a picture. There has to be, grid lines and all the other bits that go on top of it. But yeah, I definitely like maps with coastline, and I think partly I guess that because it adds blue to the map. So there's blue sea or rivers or lochs or lakes or wherever you are in the world, greens, and that balance of blue and green for vegetation, and then the white open and farm, and it all adds up. And I think if you've got one that dominates more than the other, that takes something away from it. So the map of Assynt is
sprinkled with lochs.
It has very little green on it because of the far northwest of Scotland. It's just so barren in that sense and wild. But I mean, what a composition of a map! The shape of the coastline and the little peninsulas or whatever little islands. I think it adds up to something.
Is that one of your favourites?
It's one of my favourites. Yeah. In fact, that was one of the first maps I did at Harvey Maps.
Wasn't it?
Fresh Adam out of cartography school, tasked with putting the text onto the base map ahead of the survey, as I remember.
That's right.
And we were going up.
This is coming back to me.
And you were going on a day's walk up Benmore, Assynt, and
Conyval.
Yeah. And I think there's 2 cairns on Benmore, Assynt.
There is.
And I'd put the text, the mountain name, in between the 2, and it was ambiguous which one was the top.
What was the top, yeah.
And you did a walk in, was it pretty foggy? Or
it was.
Cloud was down or whatever. But
yeah, it was in April, May time, I think. And I remember I got up onto the ridge between Conyval and Benmore Assynt, and I could only see maybe 10 metres in front of me. So I'm going along this ridge, and I saw on Adam's map that the summit is like this first cairn.
Yeah.
So I'm walking along the ridge, and I come to the first cairn and say, right, okay, yes, there is a cairn here. The weather not being great, I was perhaps not paying as much attention, but I was also trusting what was on the map.
Trusting the map, trusting the message on the map, yeah.
And so I got to the cairn, turned around and came back, descended out of the clouds and coming back. It was only when I got back in the evening that I was looking carefully at what I'd done that day, and I realised that the label Benmore Assynt was at the first lower cairn.
Oh, Chris,
because I couldn't see any further, I didn't.
And you'd been out for about 8 hours. It wasn't like it was a fair old.
It was the end of a long day.
Oh dear, that was within the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of being at Harvey Maps, and I learnt my lesson about text placement, and I probably still owe you a pint after all these years anyway. But I'll never do it again, Chris.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. I mean, that's another serious point about text. Text is absolutely necessary on a map.
Yes.
But it does pose a huge problem to the cartographer, because the place where you might want to put the text, it covers up too much, or it looks odd, and you do have to find that solution again to make it look nice. And I keep coming back to, how do we make the information has to go on the sheet, but you do have a choice. You can choose to make it look nice, or you can choose to just chuck it on and hope for the hope for the best, but definitely there is a skill in that. A couple more questions just before we wrap up episode 2. I suppose it's all linked in, but when you look at a map, when you open a map, where do your eyes go? Like, what's the first thing you notice, or what's the first thing you look for?
What, on one of our maps?
Just any map. Like,
I think it's colour.
Yeah.
It's the first thing you see. Well, it's the first thing I see. It's the colour.
Yeah.
There are certain combinations of colour are good, and some aren't. And you can use a lot of colour or actually geological maps.
Yeah.
They're absolutely drenched
they are.
in all the full spectrum of colours.
Yeah.
And yet somehow they still work. I think some of the most beautiful maps I've seen are geological maps.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, they're all tons of colour on there of every,
and
almost to the point where they're trying not to make the colours blend. They just need that differentiation quickly. See, I always look for, like, my eyes are often drawn to I suppose the shape, the ridges and how the contours act. And I'm thinking of say French style maps or something like that, where they put hill shading on it as well.
Yes.
And that land just jumps out. That 3D aspect jumps out at you in 2D. Some can look worse than others in that sense, but and we don't typically use hill shading at HARVEY Maps. But the way we draw our contour lines with brown and grey sections for the exposed rock kind of creates, I think, an element of hill shading.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And certainly lifts the kind of ridges out at you, which when you actually get to tell people and point it out to them, they don't absorb that straight away, but they just know that's higher land.
Yeah.
So it's quite, it works very well for us, I think. What do you think is going to change in the future? What's going to change HARVEY Maps' processes the most?
It's the science side, I think. It's digital technology. It's data processing. It's that side.
Art has had its say. It's now the science's time to meddle.
Yeah, it's time for the robots.
not actually.
Yeah, not actually.
But no, that's I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's the challenge of the company that's, and not just our company, but cartographic companies in general. It's the challenge to keep a pace with that.
Yes,
and
we've got to embrace that and make it work for us.
Because I think we've been embracing that blend of art and science for so long. I just think that has to. How do you continue fitting the art to the pace of technological change?
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But if you enjoyed listening to Unfolded episode 2, then join us again for some more episodes and other topics, and do subscribe to Unfolded the podcast and follow HARVEY Maps, and you'll get the updates delivered. Thanks again. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.